Welcome back to the channel, and in this video we're going to show you how to replace the rear shockers on a Freelander 2. So let's get into it. So this is the passenger side, and you can see it's all dry around the base of the shocker. This one's actually okay, but we're replacing it anyway, as you should always replace your shockers in pairs. And as you can see on this side, this one is all damp, all the oil has come out of the shocker and it's all basically collecting in the base of the cup. So what we're going to do in this video is show you how to replace them and get your Freelander back up and running with good suspension. So one of the first things you're going to need to do is take off the drop link or disconnect it at the top. There's a lot of corrosion, and the same with these two Torx bits. We're going to have to remove those. I'm just trying to clean some corrosion out of them because we don't want them snapping or rounding if possible. We need to remove that Torx, which will allow us to drop all the connected wiring and cables off the shocker. We then need to disconnect the drop link bolt there, and once the drop link's then out of the way, then the lower nut on the bottom of the shocker we need to take out, and then we can lower the hub off the shocker and then disconnect it at the top and take the shocker leg off. So we use a little bit of penetrating oil on the threads. So on this one, it's a 15mm. See if we can show you a little bit closer in. So a little bit closer in, what we've got here is a 15mm that we need to remove on the drop link, and then we have the Torx bit there and the Torx bit there. They are rounded. I have a feeling we may struggle, but we'll have a go. That is very good. Normally a drop link won't come off as easy as that, but obviously the first thing we've had to do, we're on a winner. Now looking at those, they're possibly a T30, possibly a T30 or a T27. See, if you go with a T27 and it is a T30, you may struggle and it'll round them, but I believe these are a T27. The T30 is just a little too big. So instead of dropping them, what I'm going to try and do is use a hammer to tap in. I will try the T30 as well, just to be sure. If they're a bit corroded, these may have been a T27 at the start, but they're now looking more like a T30. I don't want to use a battery buzz gun on these because it's highly likely that if I do, they'll round off. That one has cracked off okay. It probably would have come out with a buzz gun, but I'd rather not take any risks. Don't want to start snapping studs. It then means you have to start drilling things out. So same again. Just to make sure. So we're tapping in the T30 again. I have a feeling on this side it may be more of a struggle. It's not letting me. There's not much of the head left. Actually struggling to get the Torx bit to grip anything in here because of the corrosion, so I'm just going to clear it out a little bit. Just with a pick. And let's see if we can then. I think we may now get the T30 to go in. No, it's just turning. Right, that one is going to be a struggle to get out. Going to see if we can cut some slits on either side and get it out with a screwdriver. So just to try and show you what we've done, we've cut a slit across the bolt. So first of all, we're going to try and get it out with a flat blade screwdriver, and if that doesn't work, then I'll get a chisel and try and chisel it round. These are not usually that tight. But that ain't going to go with a normal screwdriver. So as it's not going to go with a normal screwdriver, I'm going to try and tap it round with a small pry bar. Hopefully, I may end up having to drill it, but if we can get it out without having to drill through and put new bolts and threads in. I do think it's moved a tad. Yep. We have now got that moving. Hopefully, see if I can now turn it out. I may just have to carry on chiseling, but we can at least try. Yeah, we're gonna have to carry on with a hammer and chisel on this. So now we've got it moving, can possibly, no, small hammer just isn't gonna work, back to the big hammer. Sometimes I should just keep going with how it worked in first place. Just going to reposition you, because I'm nearly hitting the camera with the hammer. Now I have just had a thought. We're replacing the shocker, the brackets on the shocker. So, I could have just drilled this out. It is moving now, although I believe we're spinning with a nut on the back. Yeah, the whole thing's spinning. So, to speed this one up, we're going to try and drill it off. So we've got some mole grips on the back so that I can keep it from spinning. Blunt drill. These things are sent to testers, and obviously this is something you may come across while doing your own. Maybe I need some new drills. So we cracked out the new Irwin Cobalt drill kit. Let's see if these are any better. There we go. We just needed a better drill to start with. So we now have the brackets and cables removed off both sides, the drop link removed. So what we need to do now is get this 15mm bolt out of the back, and that will then allow us to knock this down and remove the base of the hub off the shocker. So we're on a 15mm again. That doesn't want to budge, so we don't want to snap this bolt, but we are going to go in with a big ratchet and just see if we can get it to move. The guns tend to sometimes struggle to start them, and I don't want to put the bigger gun on, which is likely to snap it. So we've started it easy with the ratchet there, which should allow us to get in now with the same gun, and that should take that bolt out, no problem. There we go, that bolt is now out. To help get the hub off the actual shocker leg, one of these comes in handy for spreading. It just fits in the gap. And what it does, if you can get it in, it allows you to just open up the gap slightly, which will then allow you to get the hub off the shocker easier. Don't need much. If you put too much pressure on, you might break it. But you can see now things are moving slightly. And what we need to do is I'm going to take the caliper off, and we're going to hang the caliper. Probably hang it on here, because we need to take the hub down, and obviously the caliper will be in the way. So one thing I have just realised, this caliper is locked on this disc because the handbrake's on. So I'm going to have to put the ignition on, take the handbrake off for us to be able to get the caliper off and allow us then to drop, because we don't want to break any wiring or stretch any brake pipes. So what we've had to do on this is I've had to put the ignition on, take the handbrake off, unplug the caliper, because every time you turn the ignition off it will put your handbrake back on this side. So I've unplugged the caliper so that when I turn the ignition off, it only puts the handbrake back on the other side that I'm not currently working on. And then obviously we can plug this back in. We may have to remove some fault codes after doing the whole job on the handbrake, but for now it allows us to remove the caliper to get the hub off the bottom of the shocker. And just so you can see as well, we've actually hung the caliper on the anti-roll bar so that there's nothing that is being stressed. So you can see we've finally managed to get the hub off the shocker. I think part of it was the corrosion on the bottom of the shocker, even though we opened up the hub with the spreading tool. But we have managed to get it off. We have taken the lower arm off the bottom of the hub, because that obviously as it comes down is swinging forward. So I don't think it was helping to get it off because it needs to come down straight. So we undid that. And obviously we've managed then tapping with a hammer on here to get it off the bottom of the shocker. You do need to take the ABS sensor out of the clips because it doesn't quite stretch enough. I noticed it's starting to get a little bit tight. So you take both of those out, and that just obviously gives you more room and everything free to move. You can see now that's off, so we need to move into the boot so we can undo the bolts at the top. And then once we undo the bolts at the top, we can get the shocker leg off. Once we get the shocker leg off, we can obviously take the spring off and put it onto the new shocker and get it all fitted back up. So on this, you do half a turn to remove that. remove that off, the seal off, and then you can pretty much pull this forward. And then you get your trim out, and then you've got what look like 14 mils, so you've got 3 14 mils, 13 mils. Let's go and get a 13. I'm gonna have to use a standard ratchet. You can't quite get in with that. I've not done these for a long time. I think the last rear shockers I did on one of these was a couple of years ago. So you'll have to excuse me having to find my way with them again. We've got one off, and take the second one off using the battery ratchet. And then I'm just going to put something to catch the shocker, because I don't want it falling and damaging anything. So we've got our spring compressor tool. Obviously we need to compress the spring to be able to change it onto the new shocker. This itself can be a very dangerous job, so it's only something you should be doing if you know what you're doing. Just need to take the tension off, and then I believe that's a 19. I've got an 18 and a 19 just in case. Right, it is an 18. Right, it is spinning. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the shocker with some mole grips. That isn't something you should do on a shocker you're reusing, because it can damage the tube. But on a shocker that we're throwing away, it doesn't matter, because then that allows that to come straight off. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go back and use the 18mm nut that came off the old one. It's in good condition. The reason being, the tool I have for tightening these up is an 18mm, and I don't have a 19mm version. It's something I'm now going to have to look for, because I've realised I need it. So what you do is you put that over, and it has a pass through, so you can go through like that. And then when I find where I've put my ratchet, you can actually wind the shocker back to tighten up the nut. So what I have missed actually, I mean, you can see, look how bad that shocker is. It's got no resistance at all left in it. That one is in really poor fettle. What I am going to have to do is just take this back off again, because I need to put the rubber base back on. It's always when you're filming a video that you miss a step. So what we need to do is get this base. So that is how that sits. And then back to the 18mm. Now, what's happened there is, because I've used this tool to wind the nut once, obviously it's made a line from the threads into the nylock top. So it's allowed me to gun it down, and you can tell that is tight, and that is all we need to do. You don't go too tight, you'll end up snapping them. So now we need to put the tension back on the spring, but what we also need to do is make sure the spring is seated in the correct position and that the rubber is also in the right position. So that is where it needs to be. So now the spring is on the rubber where it should be, sat round. The rubber is a little bit stretched, possibly due to the oil that it's been soaked in that's come out of the shocker, but it's where it should be in most of the places. In reality, it could probably do with a new one of those, but we don't have one. I'm guessing that'll be a dealer part only. It's a part that you normally have to change from one shocker to the other. So that shocker leg is now built up and it's ready to go back on. Now, if you're doing this job on your own, it's difficult to get the shocker back in and get a nut on the top, because obviously you can't be there and here holding the shocker. So what you need to do is sit the shocker on the hub that's resting, and it does just allow you to get the outside nut on a few turns. Then obviously you can turn that down, which then allows you to get the others on. Now what you need to remember to do is don't forget to put the bracket on. It's some kind of weight for corner weights, I'm guessing. But what you need to do is make sure that you get these on so that they're all started. So I only nip them, and then we will use a ratchet to make sure that they are as tight as they should be. So again, we don't like to swing on things with battery tools. What we need to do is just make sure that these are nipped. You don't want to over tighten them because you don't want to snap them. They're now tightened back on, and we're now at a point where we need to put the hub back on. So we're using an hydraulic Mac tool stand for pushing the hub back on. I can push and line up at the top and push it in slightly and pump it up. I am going to need a rubber hammer, so just tap the front of the shocker with a rubber mallet, and you can see that the pressure from the bottom is pushing the hub back up. We are going to need to push that back over, the anti-roll bar, when it gets so far down. I also want to make sure that we are central on the bottom of the hub. We managed to bar it over. I'm hoping I can also get it barred under easy enough. It may be a little more of a struggle. It may require... There we go. So if you pry on the back of the bar and against the bottom of the arm, then you can get that back under where it needs to go. These are not a terribly difficult job, they just tend to be a little bit fiddly. So you can see by tapping with a rubber mallet, this is now going back in. It wants to go through, and there's a peg on the back that it needs to sit on. Obviously this shocker doesn't have any corrosion on it. I am just deforming the brackets slightly, so I'm going to try to not hit them so much. Push it up again like that, and then we are getting there, and it is lining up. Just going to put, don't know if this is going to make a difference, but just put the spreader tool back in the rear of the hub. That may open it up just enough so that we don't need to keep, there we go. If we open it up slightly, that's allowing us to get it in a lot easier. Peg on the rear is nearly lined up. I'm just going to have a look from the back with the torch. So the peg is now lined up and in. And that is exactly where it should be. So we can now remove the clamp and we can put the 15mm bolt back in. It's pretty much your job done. You can then take out whatever you're using to force the hub back on. And then it's a case, I'm going to bend that bracket back, put the drop link on, and then we're done. So the drop link needs to be refitted. It come off nice and easy. I think it will go back on the same. We can't obviously guarantee that, but it should do. I've now lost my 15mm socket. It's on the ratchet. Again, they only need nipping. I'm going to find a couple of new nuts for these, because we're obviously not reusing the rounded ones that we've had to get off. Let's see if we've got anything that will work. So the only thing I've got that'll work on these is some stainless steel little set screws. So we'll use those. The 4mm Allen key. Oh, that is one on. And a bit of WD-40 to push these back into the mounts. They push in like that, and then there we go. And then we do need to get the caliper back on, and then this bracket sits like so. It's not quite lining up for the bolt hole, so the lower peg I just need to bend up a little bit, and then it should line up. Yep, there we go. So we set the caliper bolts back in. Phone always tends to ring when we're trying to film. I will check the torque setting and torque the caliper bolts up. We then can now plug the electric motor back in, and that is the job finished. So I hope the video has helped some people if you're looking at doing your own rear shockers on the Freelander. It's not a difficult job, but fiddly. So you will need jacks obviously to push the hub back onto the shocker. You may need things to help you get the hub off the shocker. I've seen loads of people do it in various different ways. I haven't done any of these for a couple of years, so I'm a bit out of practice. But we've got that shocker changed. Good for the video, obviously. Hopefully it helps you. If it does, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and help us make more of these videos. See you on the next one. And for anybody wondering, we are going to reattach this before we put the wheel on.